You promised me that before. I still
No,
haven't
you
done
weren't here when the Lakers came in
Yeah,
town. You were back in
sure I
LA.
wasn't.
See, this is what he does, Alan. This is what he does.
I'm so tired of hearing you promise me stuff and never come through.
Oh,
Lies. There he
would've
lying
gone.
to the American public.
I'm with Key on that. Still waiting for my trip to the Masters.
Evan, SB.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
I know.
But Jay has this thing about him where he gets so excited he just get to talking. It's like, hey, yeah, woo, what? Hey, man, I'm gonna buy you a Mercedes.
No, ain't nobody out here like Oprah. You get a car. You get a car.
Hey, man, oh man, we gonna go and
You the only one with Oprah money.
I'm gonna put you on a PJ and we gonna go to the Bahamas. We are when? Like I'm waiting
What is
for those
wrong with
moments.
you? Man,
That's funny.
Brother,
actually,
don't believe brother.
Wait, brother. But that sounds a lot like what the Brooklyn Nets were doing with making this move for Kyrie and KD and all the things that are going to happen, and it hasn't happened yet. So we're still waiting on that promise as well. And with that question, Jay, you feel like the Nets have the most pressure to win a title next year, right? Like that's the team with all they've been through, and now Kyrie opting in.
I mean, so all the drama that was circulating around this team last year, how Steve Nash, a guy who has no head coaching experience, is handling this, not having a full or a complete roster for most of his short tenure with the Nets, to the Ben Simmons drama that came along with them getting him from Philadelphia in the James Harden trade, in which, Houston has all the Nets picks until 2027. That's a whole other conversation that started, to Kevin Durant watching Golden State winning a world championship. They're fourth. Now, 2 without him, and people saying, well, now it feels like between Andrew Wiggins and Harrison Barnes, you can just plug anybody in there. Like that conversation circling around that, to the Kyrie Irving situation, watching Boston get to a world championship, and then everything with the pandemic, and he's on a 1-year pretty much deal until he hits free agency. Yeah, you tell me what other team in all sports has more pressure on them than the Brooklyn Nets.
I heard that Kevin Durant got mad about somebody talking about Harrison Barnes and him and my guy, man.
And Wiggins,
because I'm just laughing. No, it wasn't. He was talking to me. No, it wasn't. Because if he was responding to me, he would say my name. I don't think he was responding to me. I think he was responding to somebody else. Because, at the end of the day, I ain't gonna say nothing. He know better than me. But they are, Alan Hahn, they are for sure the top team in sports in terms of the pressure that they have to deliver after this season. And then from there, you got other teams like the Yankees, the Lakers, the Green
Cowboys.
Bay Packers, the Cowboys. They all kind of are in there. The Clippers, if the John Wall situation goes through, it's about time that the Clippers get on the hot seat because they continue to keep building, but haven't delivered. But this thing for the New York Nets, though, for the Brooklyn Nets is huge because they're in New York.
Mm-hmm. Well, they are, but they get covered more nationally than they do locally. It is really amazing, but that's a different story. You do mention the Lakers, though, as a team that you would put on that list of teams that have pressure to win again. And I'm wondering if you feel like the Kyrie situation gave them maybe an option to try to add a piece to that team that they might need. Now that option is, at least for now, gone. Although, of course, as Woj was saying, there are still, it's a 1 year. He's picking up the option. It doesn't mean he's going to finish the season in Brooklyn. That's another conversation. But where do the Lakers go actually from here now at this point? Is Russell Westbrook now locked in on this roster? What other moves can they do?
I feel like if they could have got the Kyrie situation done, they would have figured out the Westbrook situation. No one said that Kyrie and Westbrook couldn't be on the same team, because if you thought about it, the $6 million that he would have got in the mid-level exception, then you could carry the 40 whatever it is with Westbrook. Now you just got to figure out them last little minimum guys. I think that could have still worked. Now Kyrie is out of the mix. Now you got to figure out what to do with Westbrook. Will he buy in to Darvin Ham and Darvin Ham's situation? A lot of people think he will. That's around Darvin Ham, but yet and still it's not over with yet. You still got you start with the free agency today and you move on from that standpoint, so you still got a lot of time and room before the season even starts.
I think it starts getting interesting for the Lakers too, Key. I mean, you start, and I said this when Boston lost. I said, hey, if I were Boston, I'm not saying I would do it. I would take a look at Malcolm Brogdon because I think Brogdon defensively kind of fits the mode of how they play. Also, if Marcus Smart makes questionable decisions down the stretch, is that somebody now you can change that role for Marcus Smart? But I still bring the name Malcolm Brogdon back to the Lakers. Could this work out potentially with, a THT, a package deal with him, a draft pick, and Westbrook to Indiana for a guy like Malcolm Brogdon? Because he can give you shooting, he can give you defense. It's another guy that can play off of AD. It's another guy that LeBron can say, hey, look, run the point guard because he can make sound decisions. There's some Gordon Hayward is another one with the Houston Rockets for shooting. Could you figure out a trade package? But more importantly, guys, like I'm going to say this. For Rob Pelinka, I think he has until All-Star break to try to make this work. There is so much pressure on Rob Pelinka at LeBron James at this stage of his career. Even if you want to put all the responsibility on LeBron James for bringing Russell Westbrook to the table, now to try to fix it and to make the pieces fit, this is where Rob Pelinka has to come in and make magic happen. Is it realistic? Probably not. But we live in an unrealistic world for Rob Pelinka right now.
Yeah, they've already kind of passed the buck, so to speak, on to LeBron James of a disaster year. LeBron and Clutch got that blame. Rob Pelinka now has to clean it up, fix it. Jeannie, and what Jeannie was saying throughout the season, throughout the offseason, at the end of the season about her taking the reins back and doing things the way that they want to do them from a Lakers standpoint in the organization, you certainly can see where they're trying to, but yet and still, because of the Westbrook potential, the money that's due to him, they can't go out there and acquire some of the players that may be available to them if they had the flexibility to do it. So it is showing that they are willing now to do it the way they want to do it and less about the way LeBron James and the individuals that running his camp wanted to do it.
And on that point, Key, it's something that Dave McMenamin talked about on Freddie and Fitzsimmons when it talks, LeBron and his influence, his impact on everything that was going on in Lakerland last year. I find it to be interesting how he breaks down all the things LeBron said and his influence on this franchise and where they are right now.
And he turned up the volume as the year went on. He puts this tweet out that I hear all the haters, and he puts the tweet out that, hey, we're going to make up for this, Laker Nation, believe me. And then he goes at All-Star Weekend and says he wants to play in Cleveland, and then throws some shade at Rob Pelinka and says Sam Presti's the greatest GM in the game. Like, he made things a more difficult working environment. I think from his vantage point, he thought it was going to turn around and have the last laugh, but it never happened. And so I think you get a more measured approach, really committing to the defensive end of things earlier on than he did last season, and giving Darvin his best.
Did you see it that way, Jay?
I don't understand what the problem was with LeBron James continuing to apply pressure. He's won a world championship 2.5 years ago. This is who he was. And by the way, with the exception of injury, guys, the dude had an MVP-like season. So, and he, by the way, when all this stuff was happening with Russ, he put out a video of Russ playing like, oh, I think they've forgotten. Okay, like, I respect who LeBron James is, and I'm okay with him turning up expectations. The dude is doing incredible things at the age of 36, 37 years old. The expectation should be to win a championship every single year. Did he miss the mark to a degree on Russell Westbrook? Sure he did. So what? LeBron is going to keep coming, and that's what makes him special. So for anybody that wants to throw flack at LeBron James, look at the resume. You can say, oh, well, he's look at what franchises have been since he left. But, okay, he's won world championships. And this is what comes along, or this is what happens when you have a seat at the table. When expectations are LeBron James winning a championship every single year, he's going to bring that kind of heat. I respect the hell out of it.
No, there's no question that he deserves a seat at the table. There's no question that he deserves say in everything that you do in an organization, because based on his resume, he earned the right to do those things. I think what's happening in these situations, though, is that, one, he's in L.A., Jay. It's different. Mm-hmm. This is not, New York basketball.